Hi, it's Terry from Sisterhood of the Traveling Brush, and I wanted to come in this morning and show you some different ideas for backgrounds. As I've mentioned before, when I don't have a particular project that I'm working on or a particular, I'm sorry, I had a text, or a particular project that I'm working on or inspiration or anything ready yet, my thing that helps me the most is just working on backgrounds. And I was working on some recently, and I told y'all that I would come live to show you those, and I feel really guilty that I just did them in the middle of the night one night. I woke up and I couldn't sleep, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to do my backgrounds, and or do some backgrounds. And I don't know that you can see on my table, but I always keep 3 easels set up. This was my mama's easel. I paint on this one, and I have a couple more, and I keep either backgrounds if I have some painted, or blank canvases on those, so that as I walk back and forth past them every day, I'll gather or gain inspiration. But this is trying out all the new colors. I showed you that I got in my Blick order a while back from Blick Art Supply, and if you'd like a link to them, let me know and I'll put one in the comments. But I got a couple of magentas and a couple of different greens and teals, and this, I'm not sure what it'll be used for, but it was just one where I just went horizontally with the different colors on the background, and to where you can see it really doesn't matter how you mix them in. You can squirt the paint directly on the background and then wipe it with your brush, which is probably what I did with that one. This one was where I was using the last of the fall colors that were on my palette from before. It looks a little brighter there on the camera than it is in person. But this is really a lot of rust and yellow with a little bit of red on it. And I will put some kind of fall scene on here. And here's the last one. This was my favorite of the 3 new colors, or 3 or 4 of the new colors that I got in my Blick Art Supply, and I just sort of went random with it, and there's really not a top or a bottom, so I don't know which way that'll be whenever I first decide to make a painting on this. But I kind of like it going down, and I'm thinking I might do like an abstract landscape or something through here with those colors. But what we're going to do today, and what I'm getting my inspiration from today, is called Buffalo Check. And I don't like black, and I never use black, and I'm going to make an exception today because this is so popular. And I'm not a big fan of red, but out of the 2 I chose the black and white. And I was at Hobby Lobby a couple of days ago, and it was crazy in there, the amount of people that were already buying their fall, and all the Christmas was going out. And the Buffalo Plaid or Buffalo Check is going to be extremely popular this year again at Christmas and in the fall stuff. I mean, with the black and white, it's in the fall stuff, and with the black and white and the red and black, it's in the Christmas stuff. So I thought there, maybe some people who would want to use this for a background. So I'm going to do this on one of the 12 by 12 canvases that I got in from my Blick order the other day. And I'm going to go ahead and show you a few other things ahead of time. This is, I showed you my wet palette that I like to use because I can put my paint in there. You can see I'm using the same paper, but there's no paint right now. And I tried to save my poor little sponge that goes in the bottom of there, and that didn't work out, so I did order some new ones. And you can look back in my favorite supplies, and this comes in a 3-pack. I used one this morning. Here's the other 2, and then the papers that go in it come in a pack of 30. So I don't know why I'm still using the other one, but I am. But anyways, I have a link for that if you're interested. So I'm also going to, I got this really cute, was kind of expensive for such a thin pack, but this is really nice paper. It's $12.99. I'm sure it was half price whenever I got it, but it's 36 double-sided sheets that I got at Hobby Lobby because it was actually really, really pretty paper and sort of romantic and Victorian. And I wanted to, the plaid is going to be so straightforward, and the other one is going to be, something with a palette knife, rough. So I wanted to do something a little more feminine as well. So I chose this paper, which will decoupage to which is also 12 by 12, and will decoupage to one of these canvases, and then that will become our background. I'll put a clear gesso over it. Well, we're going to tear the edges and things like that, so I'll show you that in a minute, but we'll put a clear gesso over it, and then we're going to paint over that as if we had painted these flowers on that canvas ourselves. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And I just wanted to remind you that whatever you've got, just start. This is just all kinds of crazy brushes that I grabbed this morning. It doesn't matter which one you use. It really doesn't. If you want to, if you see me using one and you're, thinking, oh, I wish I knew what brush that was, just ask and I'll tell you. But it doesn't matter. Any of this can really be done with any of the brushes. And I'm going to, I've got so much piled up on my table here because I wanted to talk about so much with y'all this morning. And I want to thank you too for being here, because I actually do intermittent fasting and I don't eat until noon, and I'm starving this morning. So I'm like, well, what am I going to do? I'll just go do a live. There's no way I can eat during a live. So if I'm here with y'all for the next hour, that's another hour I made it toward not eating. But I am going to have a apple cider vinegar drink. It's good for you. Okay. I always like to, these canvases, these are really good canvases. I spent a little more on these than usual, but they were half price, so actually didn't spend a little more than usual. But you can get these through the Blick link that I have, and on my website I have like a Terry's favorite things for canvas painting, and this stuff will be listed on there. But you can get these at Michael's, runs them 70% off quite a bit, and that kind of thing. But I'm going to go with the black and white, and I get most of my paints in the tube size. This is like a 4.6 ounce, but the black and the white things that you deepen and lighten other colors with and things like that, I get in a pretty good size container so that I don't have to worry about it. And I'm just going to use a palette knife and grab some out. And this is very thick. This is heavy body paint. So you can see that's not falling off of there. And I'll have to add a little water to it as we go to thin it out. But I prefer that to the real thin paint that you're then having to add mediums to and everything else, and not know whether you're going to have the same consistency next time. And I could have had all this ready before I came on, but I really wanted to, sort of talk you through it in case you are new to, and I'll just use a different palette knife in the white. It's also a heavy body. Well, it's not heavy body, but it's I'm going to put a lot of white in there, because that's the thing with the wet palette, is what paint will be in here will stay in here for the next 2 weeks if I leave it in there, if I don't use it all. And I'm going to use white on most of these. So so really all I needed for the buffalo check, let's hope this works how I want it to, is the black and the white. So we're going to need some gray, and I'm going to take just a tad of the black, the amount of black that's already on my palette knife, and pull some white to the side and make some gray. Just using the black that's already on there, because it doesn't take much. And when you're mixing the colors, just remember you always mix your dark into your light, because if I was trying to mix some of that white into that black, I would be going forever and have a pile of gray this big, because it takes a whole lot of light to lighten up dark, and not so much dark to dirty up the light. Okay, let's hope that's enough. We shall see. I'm using this is Cheap Joe's Art Stuff. This is a brush I've had a long time. It's sort of loose down there at the barrel. Probably left it in water too long. But it's just got I want my check to be about that size. So that's just the size I made it. I'm going to dip it in the water. Get me a little bit of water. And then, not to be wasteful, I'm going to get this paint off of here. And I just pulled a little black off with it. So I'm going to mix just a tad more with my brush here. But it doesn't have to be perfect. We're not going for perfection here. If we wanted perfect like this, we would have just bought it. We're going for artistically perfect. That's our excuse. Okay. So hopefully you can see this well. I know you can't see it as much at the top, so I'm going to bring it down while I do that. My brush is pretty full of paint, and I normally don't have it as full of paint, but because I just mixed with it that way, I'm going to continue to use it. And all I'm doing is just going straight across. Just pulling that gray. Flip over my brush to have some more. Try your best to keep your hand still, but like again, this is not perfection we're going for here. I like to do my sides the same color as can you see that? Shoot, man, I'm getting a lot of text this morning. I like to go around my edges with the same colors. So I'm going to come around the edge here with that. I'm going to leave the top white. Right now I'll put white paint over it later. It's just gesso on there. I'm going to skip about the distance of my brush, because that's about the size that I want them to be, and then I'll start the next one. Same thing, just go straight across. Around the edge. Around the edge. One smooth across it. I think you can see it now if I put it there. Yeah. You can work with these. You don't have to have an easel, but these easels, the regular easels, are like, I'm skipping again the width of my brush, about that. I want them to be relatively even, and going down, I'm going a little bit wider than my brush stroke, because I'm pushing pretty hard with this brush, which is fanning out those, what do you call them, bristles a little bit, and making a little wider than my brush. Now my menopause brain kicked in again, and I forgot what I was talking about. Get the edges. Skip a little. Go again. This is so relaxing, and to me, if you're just doing backgrounds like this, it takes so much pressure off, because you don't have to decide what this is going to be. You don't have to decide how it's going to look. All of the, I guess, important parts of the painting aren't relevant yet when you do it this way. Of course, you're going to have this in the background, and whatever you put on here, for one, it's wasting a little bit of paint. For two, it's skipping my brush width, going again. For two, it's gonna, if you're putting a lighter color on the top, some of this is gonna show through. But for one, sometimes it looks pretty cool for it to show through. And for two, you can always, and what I will probably do, take gesso and paint an outline of whatever you're going to put on here, and cover that up, and that'll cover up the paint that's in the center and give you a little bit more texture once again on your painting, and then that will cover up the gray that's underneath it, and the black, because we'll be having black here in a minute, and you know, give you a surface that's going to grab your paint good. And that's not straight, and not let the lines show through. Okay, about the width plus a little, that puts us here. Ooh, that may have been a little too close. Too late. So that's what I was thinking. It takes the pressure off, because there's no pressure. There's no pressure when you're doing a background. It doesn't matter. You don't have to think about what's going to go on there later. You can think of that later. It'll come to you later, and you'll know what's the perfect thing to go on here. Like I usually will do things in a series, and even though my backgrounds may not look anything alike, I'll do them all kinds of different colors and shapes and things like that. And if I come through and say, you know what, I'm in the mood for painting churches, I'll find a way to put a church on every single background. Or if I'm in the mood for, I'm going to turn this now the other direction, and so now I have vertical stripes, and I'm going to do the same exact thing, just going over this. Or if I wanted to paint cows, or if I want to paint chickens, or whatever it is that I decide I want to paint at the moment, I can just go over every background and put one. It makes life very easy. A lot of people know what they're going to paint first. Say if you were going to paint an old barn, and they would sit down and put their barn in the middle and then come back and put the background around the edges of it, and there's nothing wrong with that, but this method works for me because it gives me this little bit of time of freedom and to wait for inspiration and to not be worried and to just let it flow and let the relaxation set in and this is like paint yoga, you know what I mean? It's like I'm getting flexibility in my mind and allowing my mind to open and be free to just express itself with this brush on this canvas. And if I never do anything with it, then I have a background still. My canvas is a little bit dry now. I sprayed it in the beginning to have a little bit of flow on it, but this paint is also is thick and a little bit dry, so you may not take as many strokes as I do if you're using a thinner paint or if your canvas was still damp. But I started to do this in teal this morning. Well, I thought about doing it in purple. I'm from Louisiana, so I was thinking, oh yeah, it would then end up being an LSU something as we're coming into football season. Like, I'm trying to think about the holidays here. I'm not wanting to be thinking about football here. Get enough of that at the dinner table with my husband at night. But, so sorry about that. I had a telephone call. Go along here and enjoy the process. Okay, so now we have a check. It's not a buffalo check yet, and I probably should have thought this through and decided what I was going to do before I went live with it, but let's look at the ribbon and see the difference. How do they do that? Every other one is black. So that's what we're going to do here. Every other one is black. And they stay in line, actually, which is not what I expected. Let me rinse out my brush a little. I think I should mist that black because it's very, very thick. Painting can be very therapeutic if you let it. Okay. Let's start here. Well, that's a boo-boo. But you know what? That's the good thing about acrylic paint, is I can come back over this in a little while with more gray and hide that. I'm not going to worry about it. Just try to get the light is bothering my eyes a little bit from after my eye surgery. So let's see if I should go at it straight down, start, drag, over, stop. Yep, that leaves it a little bit better of a beginning and an end. So rather than coming at the canvas, oh, you can't see that anyway. Rather than coming at the canvas sideways as I did with the others, I'm going to kind of go at it straight. Let me get a few of these under my belt here. I probably should have let this dry a little bit. Oh, it's fixing to lose it. There you go. Okay, let's see. Does this far? Yep, now you can see. There's still a lot of wet gray under there, so, but we're just going to pretend this is flannel. It's got a little bit of fuzz to it. I don't see my dryer in here. I would go ahead and dry this, but so I'm just doing every other one. Can you see that? I'm just flipping my brush one way then the other so that it's not picking up too much of that gray before it lays it down on the next one. There's the good and the bad to this thick paint. I love it so much, but I don't know why when I have to work it so much this way. Hey, Connie. Thanks for joining me this morning. I'm doing the buffalo plaid. I don't know if it's called buffalo plaid or buffalo check right now. What I did so far was mix some black and white to come up with some gray, and use the width of my brush as the distance, and do stripes all the way down horizontally, flip it over to where those were vertical, and now and put a whole nother set, so then you just had a gray checkerboard all over. And now I'm going through and doing every other one with black. And I'm not going for perfection, I'm just going for relaxation. We can find perfection on the assembly line, but not here. Sometimes I think that's something that started years ago when we first started getting store-bought clothes and store-bought food and store-bought all that stuff. We started wanting everything to be perfect and giving up its individual characteristics and the artisticness of things, individuality. We were like a bunch of Stepford people. But there it is. That's what it's going to look like. See if I can get some of that black paint off my brush. Fill it up over there. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry now. There's my version of the buffalo plaid or buffalo check. We've just got, let's see if that's too bright to even show, just the gray on the sides. And, oh, that did do good. I thought I didn't do one of them. I went all the way around. So all the sides have the gray and the black down the center. I'll let that dry, and I'm going to put some kind of fall or Christmas something on here. Either I'll put a Christmas wreath on here because this ribbon could then hang it, and there you go. It came out of the Christmas section at Hobby Lobby. Or I could put a pumpkin on it, but I'm more of a Christmas person than a pumpkin person anyway. So I'm going to move this one over, and the next one's going to be the one with the scrapbook paper. And we're just working on the background. I'm going to move my black and white out of the way a minute. And we're going to, I picked out of a book of paper I got at Hobby Lobby. There's, you know, when you buy the books of paper, you get a trillion kinds of pretty paper. And I'm going to use Antique Matte Mod Podge to put it on. And then after it's dried on here, I'm going to use, this is it. I'm going to use clear gesso to go over it. That'll be just a different video, but I'm going to use the clear gesso to go over it so that I'll be able to paint on this as if I had painted these flowers and this was my background, and have this be the surface of something romantic or Victorian or something. But what I'm doing is I'm going to tear away some of the edges to make it look rough, and you always tear away from you so that the white part that's going to be ugly and show, see if I can get it to where you can see it, will be on the piece that you throw away. So I'm going to go, both of these are 12 by 12, so it would fit perfectly, but you know, I'm going to paint over this. I'm going to want to show some, you know, some of the things that I love to do on here, and just use, mostly I'm interested in this sort of a old tea stained color and these roses that are on here. So I'm definitely gonna tear in a loose fashion. But I don't want any straight edges on here, or not on the top. I'll keep it straight on the bottom. That's not a biggie. Maybe. Yeah, I'm going to leave it straight on the bottom. But it really doesn't matter in these other areas. And I'm going to tear some more of that off. That's too much. The roses were what I wanted to see the most. So that's what we're going to put on there. And that brush is filthy now. Let's see if we can find something else semi. Here's another one. This thing is rough stuff. I got this. It's Grummacher Black Diamond Flat Round something. Got this at Tuesday morning, and it's so stiff that I don't know how to use it very well, and for what I normally do with things. So I've not used it a tremendous amount in painting. No need to wet my surface this time because I'm going on it with the gesso, and I'm not worrying about, look at there, can you see it? Hair, what do you call it? Bristle came out. I'm not worried that I'm going past where my paper's going to be on here, because if I worried about all that, life would have me all stressed out. Just putting a little bit on there, and then I'm going to go on the back of the paper and put the rest. And the paper being a little bit thinner around the edges where I tore the, you know, the rest of the paper off, will just make it be a little more see-through and give it a little bit more of the old time-worn look, which is cool. If I was using it for scrapbooking, I probably would have went around it with some brown ink, but I don't know if I have any brown ink that that wouldn't fade when I put water on it, you know, or smear. So I'm just going to go for this. And after this dries, I'll probably give this 2 or 3 hours to dry and come back to it this afternoon. But I've got a million more projects. I'm working on a piece for the Art Central contest for this month, the furniture piece. We're not allowed to show it yet, but the theme for this month was maps. So there's a group of ladies who are, let me try to line that up real good at the bottom. A group of ladies who are furniture painters and designers who are all just went out and found maps and going to use the maps to decorate their painted furniture with, and then there will be a vote at the end for how many people think your piece is the best, and then the winner gets interviewed on the thing and gets, you know, publicity for her painting business. I won that last month. Last month it was transfers, and it was my very first time to use a transfer. My husband and I made a bench out of 2 old headboards and a footboard, and then I painted it and put a transfer on it, and I made a cushion for it. It was a lot of fun. This month's project is a little bit crazy, but crazy's good, I think. But I overdo myself with that kind of stuff. I overcommit myself with my regular work schedule and with wanting to do stuff like this and hang with y'all and all that. And I could have just put a map on a piece of furniture like it was intended and been done with it. But oh no, I got to make 50,000 props to go with it, because part of the contest is also the staging of the piece so that you get a pretty picture of it. So that's a lot of effort too. I'm going to go ahead and put a coat of this Mod Podge on top too, because that's just the way you do it. Make it go all the way through. Even though I'm going to put the clear gesso on later, I don't want to I don't want to chance this bubbling up or me having a problem with this later on, because I am going to paint on top of it. And this helps me feel if there's any bubbles or anything in there. And just as we did when we did the Mixed Media Girl project, if I do find any bubbles or wrinkles or anything like that happen to this later on as it's drying, which is, you know, 100% possible, I'm just going to take a little sanding pad after it dries and sand them off, because that's going to give a little more of the rustic, time-worn feeling to it too. So, man, the bristles are coming out of this thing. It's probably why they were at Tuesday morning. Yep, there's a lot of wrinkles coming in this. And I guess working with the canvas, even though this is a really good canvas, it doesn't give it as much stick-to-itiveness, if that's a word. Trying to at least get the edges on really good, but they're not wanting to. A lot of times the scrapbook paper, it's called cardstock, is so thick that it's multi-layered, whether you think it's multi-layered or not. This one is printed on both sides, but what has happened is the glue did not go all the way through the center piece through to the top piece like it would for, say, a napkin. If you took a napkins are usually 3-ply and you take them apart, but I couldn't split this scrapbook paper apart. Somebody could have, but I couldn't have. I don't have the patience for that. But anyways, I'm trying to mop out some of those air bubbles right now, but like I said, I'm going to sand them out later anyway, so it's not a big deal. But I think that the movement in this canvas, every time I push down really hard, it's just moving that air bubble to another area. So I'm fixing to be done with this, what I'm fixing to be done with, and sand it later. And I'm still excited about how it'll look. So here you go for right now. I don't know if you can see there are a couple of wrinkles in there. I just tried to make sure it was smooth at the very top edge so that there won't be an air gap underneath there later. And I think I see one right there. And take care of that, and then I'll sand it and gesso it and paint over it anyways, or paint over the majority of it. Okay, so that's 2 down. And the last one, I'm going to just use fall colors and put my brush up and my Mod Podge up. Just going to use some fall colors and a palette knife and just slap some paint on there and see what we come up with. This is the fun part. This is like a kid getting to play in the paint right here. I think if you ever grow up and you quit doing things that are fun and enjoyable to you, life gets sad. And I've done that before. I did that for a good many years of my life. I worried so much about work and things like that that I didn't have enough fun, and it made me just too serious, and I'm definitely out of that phase now. This is burnt umber, probably my favorite color. It's really just a rich deep brown. I'm going to go with burnt sienna, which is like a medium brown, sort of a rusty brown. Love, love, love that color too. And raw sienna. I'm having to go around all this gray that I have splattered all over the place in there. Another good fall color. This red oxide from the outside looks like it's going to be about like the raw sienna, but it's actually a little bit lighter, but still in the orange family. This is just another version of the burnt umber, and it's really, really thick, so I'm not going to mess with it. We're going to go with some yellow ochre, which is a little bit lighter than the raw sienna. And this brand new green gold that I got last week. Thanks, Sandy. Thanks for joining us to watch. Let me squirt a little bit of this out here because it's making me feel good this morning with that green. We're just doing some backgrounds. I did the buffalo check first. Then I just finished the one. I don't know if you were on here for that. Just Mod Podging some scrapbook paper to the bottom, which we're going to let dry, put some clear gesso on, and then paint something over part of it. And now, I don't know, I wanted to use palette knives for part of this, and I still may. I've got so many things on my dang table here. And I may use brushes too. I've got this huge new palette knife. I didn't mean to get anything that big, and it came in, and I'm like, whoa, that thing's huge. So I may as well see what I can do with it. And I was just looking for another flat brush, but I think my favorite's in the water. And we've got the white down here so we can lighten up. Yeah, I love Mod Podge too. The one I used on that is, I didn't know until a recent trip to Hobby Lobby that they have every kind of Mod Podge that you would ever want to have. This is an antiquing and matte. I don't like things to be too shiny, and that would look good with the antiquing, I believe. So that's what I'm going to go with. I do pop that brush out and stick it back in there. Okay. I'm not going to have much rhyme or reason to this. I'm just fixing to get some paint on this canvas. Let's mist it so it'll spray well. I get so many things in here that I want to talk to y'all about and pile them all up on my workstation. I'm just going to mist. This is an old squirt bottle from Jane Iredale Makeup. And fill it up with water. Keep it with me when I travel to get wrinkles out of my clothes. But also mist down my canvases just a little bit to help my paint flow in the beginning. And let's see, I squirted out the most of this yellow ochre, so I'm going to start with it. And I'm just going to put some all around what will be the center edges there. It's sliding all over that water. Kind of smooth it out a little bit. This is just going to be just a rough textured background that some kind of fall something will go on, and it's only just being done to make me feel good that I'm doing something and not eating when I'm supposed to be fasting. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and grab me some white to put in the middle, and that'll put and I'll mix it up with this, which will make that just a little bit lighter. But that's also going to bring the focal point area to the center here. So whatever I do put on this page will be like, have a halo, sort of a little bit of a more attention brought to it there in the center. And it doesn't have to be perfectly anything but on the canvas. That's all it's got to be, and it is. Okay, you know I'm wanting to use this great big one. it looks like a pie server. I'm telling you. I don't know what, well, it probably says what it's called. I've already faded it out. Okay. I know I'm going to, in my mind, green has always got to go to the bottom because I'm going to pretend like it's for grass. So just going to grab some and put it on here and put it around the bottom area. Get it on here. And grabbing some of the yellow with it absolutely does not matter. They'll blend together. The green will stick out more in some areas, and the, oh, that was all of it. Bummer. And the yellow in others, but let's get some of that on there. This thing covers a lot of area. That might be a plus. Okay, now we've got, I'm just going to go by color. We've got the next lightest color. I'm going to go here on the edges a little bit. That's the, splash it over here on my brush. Let's get that so we don't waste it. That's the raw sienna. The rest of that. Okay, red oxide is a little bit, it's a little bit brighter than all these colors, but it's still lighter than the next color up. So just gonna kind of halo around my halo with it and come on down. I like things to be done a little bit in the round, so I'm gonna go a little bit in the round with it. That's from studying feng shui, I think. Round is better than corners. Corners are bad luck. It's crazy the things you can learn in your youth that you'll get superstitious and think about. Okay, now we have, what was this? Burnt sienna. Put some of that on both edges. Real thick up there, so it's kind of hard to smooth across. I'm not worried about these edges because that's part of the appeal of this kind of background, is it has rough edges on it. Now to my favorite. Let's hope it's not too dark. We're just going to put a little there. I'm going to go up and I'm going to go to all four corners with it. And the top and the center, a little more there, and around the edge, and then let's just go with it. That the darker around the very bottom edges is sort of going to frame everything out a little bit too, so that all focuses more attention to your focal point, which will be here in the middle somewhere. Now I'm trying to just look for anywhere where I may have had too straight of areas, because I like to curve it out a little. Curving that out a little. There's a little bit more brown. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to grab my white now, and probably got too much, and just go here and there and put some. And that's it. I'm going to take some of the loose paint that's mixed in here, and I'm going to do my outside edges, because I always do my outside edges. Another one of those crazy habits. And I'm just going to grab some of these paints, going all the way around my pan here and just grabbing some. And I don't know if you can see that. See if I can flip it around this way. Depending on how I turn my brush and what I'm grabbing from up there, it's a little darker, a little lighter, but it's finished, and that gives it the finished look for if somebody, whoever ends up buying this or having this in their home, won't have to frame it, because it is already a wrapped stretch canvas, and if it has paint around the edges, then it always looks complete and finished. If anybody has any suggestions of what they may like to see on any of these, you can tell me that too. I really about have my heart set on putting a wreath on that buffalo, I don't know if it's buffalo check or buffalo plaid. And I don't know why they call it buffalo. It doesn't look anything like a buffalo. I've never seen a buffalo with a ribbon around its neck. But anyways, I think I'm going to put a Christmas wreath on that one. And I think maybe something like a barn would look cool on this one, or you know, I want it to be a little bit of a fall scene, but I can't just do pumpkins and sunflowers when my whole background has so much orange on it already. It may not look very good. And I'm gonna put something feminine on the one with the scrapbook paper, so probably something about a girl, something, a little something something. Look, there was still a little bit of paint on this one, on this side, so let's just stick it on there. How about that? The thing to remember whenever you're using the palette knife, that I'm not so good at, which is why I don't use the palette knife as often, is you're supposed to be very light-handed. I mean, you know, just, I want to like dig in there like I'm digging in the dirt and slap some paint on that thing and get going with it. But the reality of what looks the very best is when you just lightly drag across it. Slide the colors without digging down into the canvas, I guess is a good way to put it. Like I just did right there. My name is not Terry Light Touch Stovall, I tell you that. But let's get in there and get some paint on there. Okay, so as crazy as that looks right now, I believe it will look good with the barn on it. If y'all think it would look better with something else on it, give me a suggestion. We could still put flowers on it, and a little bit of grass and a little bit of wildflowers in the middle. We could still put a church or a barn or anything in the world. Obviously I want the, you know, because of the color palette, I want this one to be a little bit fall related, but it can be anything in the world. And what I do now at this point, the reason that I do the canvases in this way, and I showed in the beginning of the video the 3 that I did last week. I'll hold them up here again. This is just using some new Blick colors that I got. I have no idea what's going to go on these either. But they'll sit in here, and as I walk through my studio every day, it's between my bed and my bathroom. Whenever I walk through here every day, I'll see these, and it may be 10:30 at night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I know what goes on there. I know what goes on there now. Then the inspiration hits me from the background, and I will go for it from there. So that's what my process is. I'm glad y'all joined me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a suggestion or something you'd like to see, or a technique that you would like to learn, if I don't know it, I'll learn it, and then I'll come back and share that information with you, because that is what I enjoy to do. I appreciate you being here with me today, and I look forward to putting something cool on these once I come up with some ideas. I don't know if you can see, if I can pick my phone up a little bit where you can see the whole thing. I don't even think you can see the whole thing. There you go. And thinking of what to put on there and just going for it and seeing what we can do. and I appreciate you. I'm off all week, so I'm not painting any furniture this week. I generally paint in the classroom at work. I do have the Art Central piece. I hope y'all will watch for that. That contest ends on the 29th. I'll have to submit my pictures then. And it's a map piece. My piece is a table. But it has a lot of other pieces that go with it that I'm going to try to finish up today and tomorrow. And I hope you'll watch for that. And if you like mine the best, I hope you'll give me a vote. And if you don't like mine the best, whoever you do vote for, I'm sure they'll appreciate you too, because we're all just, you know, mostly a bunch of middle-aged women trying to find a way to have a good time. The barn idea. Okay, Sandy, barn it is. I've been wanting to do a barn. I played in barns. I live in, you know, in the country in Louisiana. I have trouble saying rural, so I didn't say that part. But anyways, I got to play in the barn at both of my grandparents' houses. Everybody had barns, and the kids always got to play in the barns. And I still love the barns today. They're actually still standing, so we still, you know, get to see them and appreciate them. So maybe I will put my love for a barn on this one, although in Louisiana things don't hardly ever turn. All our leaves don't turn, so you know, here there would be more pine trees and everything's still green year round, but I still think that would be a rustic thing to put on here. Also lived in Tennessee for a while as a child, and there it was the coolest thing in the world to me. They had barns everywhere, huge barns. They were like industrial barns, and everybody grew tobacco. And you know, I had heard of cigarettes, of course. Back then everybody smoked them, and they were 29 cents a pack at every store. But they had tobacco in these long strips hanging all in these barns, and the highways, you know, the back roads and things were just covered with them, and until the tobacco would turn brown, and I guess then they sold it to the cigarette companies or the chewing tobacco companies and things like that. But it had a really good smell to it to me as a kid. But you know, I was the weird kid who liked the smell of the feed store anyway. But I probably licked a cow salt block a time or two. Don't tell anybody that. But anyway, I do have fall memories of barns as well from when we were in Tennessee, and those were some beautiful memories as well. And so maybe I'll use some of that for my inspiration for this one. I'm going to put a Christmas wreath on the buffalo plaid and some kind of girl something romantic on the other one. Oh yeah, that, you know, you think of, Sandy, you think about stuff like that. I never thought about people in Michigan having a barn. I don't know, you know, I guess your mind is limited to what you've grown up around. I've never been there, and I'm just thinking, oh, it's just all big city industrial. But I'm supposing there were, you know, grandparents who lived on a farm and farmers and things, and, you know, probably all the states. And my mind just, you know, wasn't aware of it because I've never been. That's my goal. That's one of my goals, because I love to travel. That's part of the traveling brush theme here. I go and visit other girls who have shops and who do the things that I do and highlight their businesses. But I plan to have a motorhome and travel the whole United States, go see all the state parks, and that's my bucket list. That's what I plan to do. I'm going to go paint something in every state. So thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.